Coming up on Network Africa, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed begins a two-day state visit to Kenya. Four men accused of stealing a car in South Africa break into a prison during a police chase. And Tunisia's Ennahda Islamist Party claims victory in the country's first municipal election. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Temitope Fagbemi. We begin today in Kenya, where the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is visiting. His meeting with the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta on ways to bolster a stronger relations between the two countries. The Prime Minister, who will be in Kenya for 2 days, was greeted by President Kenyatta and a 21-gun salute upon his arrival in Nairobi, Kenya. Bilateral and regional issues are expected to dominate discussions between the President and Prime Minister. Mr. Ahmed's trip to Kenya is the Prime Minister's first foreign visit since taking office in April. In South Sudan, President Salva Kiir has called on his exiled former deputy and rebel leader Riek Machar to return to the country, saying he will guarantee his safety and protection. In an audio recording released by a Netherlands-based radio, the president says, quote, "I said you bring Riek Machar to Juba here. Bring him to Juba and I will guarantee his safety and I will protect him with the National Army. If you don't believe me, the RPF is here. You bring the RPF to take charge of the security of Riek Machar in Juba. Nobody would believe that I would call for Riek to be brought, but I said bring him because Riek is a citizen of South Sudan. What we are doing here is forgiveness. Riek is a citizen of South Sudan and he will return." End of quote. Mr. Machar fled the country in July 2016 after heavy clashes between his forces and troops allied to President Kiir. In the past, Mr. Kiir and several other South Sudanese officials ruled out the return of Mr. Machar, saying it will reignite fighting in the war-torn country. However, it seems like the South Sudanese leader may have finally bowed to pressure from the regional bloc IGAD, the African Union and Western nations to reach out to his rival to end the country's devastating civil war. There was mild drama in South Africa today where four men accused of stealing a car in the country inadvertently drove it straight to a prison. Cape Town law enforcement spokesman Wayne Diarson says the alleged robbers were being chased by the police when they drove it into Pollsmoor prison where anti-apartheid icon Nelson Mandela was once jailed. They got out and ran into the grounds of the prison where they were arrested. The Cape Town ETC news site branded them the city's dumbest criminals, but Mr. Diarson suggested that they were extremely dangerous, saying that when police did a check, they found the four had about 35 cases of murder, attempted murder, theft and possession of illegal firearms pending against them. So let's get more on this story from our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia. Thanks for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you, Tope.
Now, Betty, this is a very interesting story. Robbers chased by the police running straight to prison. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, I guess it's the proverbial day for the owner of the house, this time the police, because that car, in the mold of a Golf, which is a favorite here for car thieves, they usually, because unlike Nigeria, you don't have inscriptions of the registration numbers on the side with mirrors or the windshield, and so they usually strip the cars and sell. So in this case, they stole the car from an area called Hout Bay, which is about 18 minutes normally from the Pollsmoor prison. Now, when the escape route, and there was a tip from a neighbor who alerted the police, and the police gave chase. When the escape route didn't work out, they now let me just paint a scenario of helter-skelter. They now went to wherever they could, and they now drove straight through the entrance, which is usually used by visitors or the wardens, who are living on the property of it's a maximum security prison, and some of the most dangerous criminals in the country are actually there at the moment. So luck ran out, and when they drove in, probably realizing where they had driven into, they fled the car. and running into the grounds of the prison. So that was when the police got them arrested.
We know Nelson Mandela was once held at that prison. Probably that's the reason why they chose that location and not somewhere else.
Well, Nelson Mandela spent about 18 years of his 27 years in prison at that place, among others, Ahmed Kathrada, Walter Sisulu, and the likes. But I'm sure they just had to drive in wherever they could. When you're running for your life, you could just, find yourself anywhere. And that was I'm sure they wouldn't want to wouldn't have driven into that place if they knew what they were doing. But I guess there was just nowhere else, they could go. And they've been called the dumbest. But according to the law enforcement records, as you said earlier, there are a bunch of dangerous men with so many cases against them, including murder and attempted murder, among other things. Now you have 35, so added to this one, you make that 36. And now they're going to be answering for their sins.
So what next? Do they get a chance to defend themselves in court, or is this a cut and dried case?
Cut and dried case, no, they will get a chance. There are laws in the country, so they have to answer for the charges that will be placed against them. Probably now they may, at the end of the case, if they're found guilty, they will now officially be residents of that Portsmouth prison, because people, you have a lot of murder convicts as well as so many other dangerous criminals in that place. So maybe they may now officially be residents there, but they will definitely go through the court system and the law will take its course.
Betsy Dibia, thanks so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you.
Tunisia's Islamist Ennahda party has won the country's first municipal elections since the 2011 uprising, which sparked the so-called Arab Spring. Exit polls show that its secularist rival, Ennahda Tunis, is 5% behind. Both parties make up Tunisia's ruling coalition. The Tunisian Prime Minister Youssef Chahid described the poll as an important step that will complete the move towards democracy. Voter turnout stands at just under 34%. The charcoal industry is a multi-billion-dollar global industry. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, over 40 million metric tons of charcoal are consumed globally, and approximately 2.4 billion people rely on wood and charcoal for their daily fuel. In Somalia as well as Nigeria, it is a very lucrative business for domestic and export purposes. The United Nations says every 30 seconds a tree is cut down to make charcoal in Somalia, estimating that charcoal exports are worth more than $100 million a year. Now that's why a two-day conference has started in Somalia's capital Mogadishu, focusing on the environmental damage caused by charcoal production. Nigeria currently ranks second to Brazil in the production of charcoal. It currently exports 380,000 metric tons annually. Joining us to speak about this is an environmentalist, Greg Odogu. He joins us live from our Abuja studios. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Now, charcoal could easily be regarded as one of the most common means of energy in many homes in Africa. But according to the United Nations, it is dangerous to the environment. Tell us more about that.
Well, just like we know, charcoal comes from wood. And what is wood? Wood comes when the sunlight shines on the earth, and it forms, it takes oxygen, it takes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and forms oxygen and then wood. So when you burn it, you are taking out again the carbon dioxide that it absorbed from the atmosphere. You are taking it into the atmosphere again. That is what is the major problem about this, because it is causing environmental problems. And in Nigeria, sadly, for the past 5 years, there is an increase in the production of charcoal. The charcoal industry in Nigeria is growing so fast, and it's very worrying it should be very worrying to every Nigeria. The Food and Agricultural Organization has officially said that because of the charcoal industry, Nigeria is losing its forest cover. In fact, in the next 20 years, we have lost 50% of our forest cover. And we are losing it at the rate of 5% every day. every year. It used to be 3%. Now, 5% of our forest cover is lost. And you know what it means when we don't have forest again. And experts have said that by 2047, we may wake up and we don't find any tree, no forest, because of this, the charcoal industry, which is basically illegal. In 2016, the government of Nigeria banned charcoal production, but it reverts itself because of the, just like you commented earlier, because it is used everywhere. It is used by especially the rural dwellers, foreign people that are also living in the city. And when you see a lot of parties going on, a lot of celebrations, most families, most institutions, most organizations, they don't use gas to cook. When they are doing anything that is major or cooking for a lot of people, they use charcoal. And this is a problem. Now, at least you three things that we can say that is the problem that charcoal is in the industry is creating in Nigeria. First of all, we are losing the some endangered species of animals, like the chimpanzee. The Cameroonian Nigerian chimpanzee is declared endangered, and now we are losing them every day because the charcoal is taking out the forest, and charcoal industry is not regulated enough. Secondly, the honey you are buying in the market very soon will not be authentic honey again, because the smoke and the heat from production of charcoal kills the bees and chases them away, makes them extinct. So it is a major problem, and we are losing a lot of economic trees, because people fell trees without minding whether they are mature or not. We are losing satinwood, we are losing iroko tree, locust beans trees, and people cut them down even without replacing them, without planting others. There is supposed to be a policy. If you cut down one for charcoal, you plant two, but people are not doing it, and it's unregulated, and that is bad for the country.
Now, Mr. Dogo, with all these dangers that you've listed, what alternative is there to charcoal that is inexpensive and safe for use?
You know, basically, why charcoal is very accepted and used widely is because it's relatively cheap. So we have to look at it that way, just like you asked me now. The first that is as cheap as charcoal is biogas. Biogas is a combination of natural gases that are got when biodegradable objects or substances or products are put to what is called anaerobic consumption through microorganisms. When you put them, the gases that come out from them is called biogas. These gases can be used to cook, they can be used to produce electricity, and they can be used to do some other things that maybe charcoal would have done for us. So, but I think the major thing now is that the charcoal should not be looked as a devil, but it should be regulated in such a way that it will be sustainable. That is why there is so much lie even in the industry. For example, if the charcoal that is exported from Nigeria, on the polythene or the packages, you see sustainably produced written on it. But the question is it sustainably produced? Because most of them are not. What is sustainable production? Sustainable production is when, for example, if you cut down a tree to produce charcoal, you now plant 5 or 4 more so that you produce more trees. Then if you see a tree that is not mature or that is of economic value, like hardwood and some other things that Nigeria could sell to get foreign exchange, you don't just cut it down. And if you see an endangered forest, you don't just go there and start cutting for charcoal making. So the question is combination, the answer to this is combination of biogas and regulated charcoal making. If it's regulated, if it's done in a sustainable way, there is no, we are going to cut down the dangers in the industry by more than 50%. Then if we add biogas, which is very easy to make, biogas can be made from municipal waste, it can be made from the waste from your kitchen, it can be made by small cells and families, and they can use it and do the same thing, achieve the same result that that charcoal is achieving for everybody. So biogas is the cheapest. Then energy efficiency will be added to it.
Environmentalist Mr. Greg Odogu, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. Still to come on the program, women in Kenya break the mold as taxi drivers in a male-dominated field. Please stay with us for details.